Founders often experience communication issues as they scale. And if your company is between 10 and 20 employees, this is probably the time you have to fix those problems before they become big issues. Because once you hire a few more people, managers stop passing on information and start interpreting it. And this can be solved even if you have scaled your company. So in this video, I'm going to show you a method that I don't think anybody else is talking about and really helps solve this communication issue. And most founders think that scaling creates communication problems, but it really doesn't. It just exposes them. Growth really exposes communication issues. And if I were to walk into a founder-led company today, there is one system that I would install immediately to make sure everything grows naturally. And it's not another meeting, it's not another Slack channel, it's not another SOP, it's a communication system. And to understand why, we need to take a look at what happens as companies grow. So let's first look at this 3 stages that companies kind of go through as they scale and how it affects how they communicate. Stage 1 is when you're under 10 employees. Everything happens naturally because the founder is leading all the conversations. The founder is in the middle of all the discussions, and if there's a problem, they just go to the founder. This helps priorities stay aligned and culture is communicated naturally. You really don't have to work hard at creating systems because, again, the founder is at the center of all communications. Now, stage 2 is when you're between 10 and 20 employees, and this is when cracks start to appear because the founder can talk to everybody, but it's going to run them ragged, and you're going to start seeing those cracks filter down into daily operations and, more importantly, on how people understand the mission of the organization. Once you start to begin to form departments and having organizational structure, interpretation lag starts to creep into the communication process. This is where something that I call narrative debt starts to creep in because people don't understand the story of why the founder started this company and why the company exists, at least not as acutely as it did in the first phase of the organization. Now, when you get to stage 3, when you're over 20 employees and you get into the hundreds, something happens permanently. The founder cannot personally talk to every employee every day. Managers become translators of what the company is about, and translation starts to affect things like the game of telephone. Things start to change as the message gets relayed. So let's talk about narrative debt. Founders think they're scaling people as they build out a team, but really what they're scaling is interpretation. Narrative debt is when every explanation becomes just a little bit inconsistent. When there's just a slight different priority on what matters, when all of that just starts to drift a little bit, you create a debt on what the story is. So now the founder may come into a meeting and go, well, I thought we were doing this. And everybody's like, no, we're doing that. That's because of this mismatch. So the solution that often is employed in organizations is more. We need more meetings. We need more Slack channel communications, more memos. If you watched Office Space, you know that memos are not terribly efficient, even if they're digital.
Did you see the memo about this?
So we increase communication, but we don't increase narrative consistency. And that's a huge distinction. Really what we default to is to-dos. So to-dos generally orders, if you will, generally pass down the ranks fairly efficiently. We need you to do this. But what doesn't pass down is the why. Why do we need to do this? And why does it matter? And for that matter, why do we matter? Why does the organization matter? Why do we exist? We stop communicating that and just default to the tasks. And then we wonder why our whole foundation becomes unstable. It's because we don't have the infrastructure to continue to communicate what human beings need to hear, which is why. Now I'm going to give you a system that I would install today. This is what I'm advising my clients to do right now. I think I'm the only person talking about this. I don't understand why companies haven't seen this as a solution, but I'm excited to be able to share it with you so that you could implement it and just remember where you heard it from. I would install a short form video system into my company immediately. If you're between 10 and 20 employees, this is a perfect time to do it because the system can grow as you grow. But even if you are a large organization, you have multiple departments and lots of employees, well, now's the time to put this into place. It'll take a little while for it to catch on, but it really can change the way you communicate to your people. Now, what I'm talking about is using vertical video, short form video to your advantage because we understand how vertical video works. Let me ask you this. You expect your employees who go home and scroll on Instagram or TikTok and are watching dopamine-filled vertical video, you expect them to listen to your memo with the same level of attention that they do those messages? It's simply impossible. And it's not that they don't want to, it's that they've been trained to ingest information in a particular way. This is particularly important when it comes to the why of the company. When it comes to orders can go down through your traditional means, email, messages, Slack, the meetings. Those things work really well for that. But if you want to reinforce the core message of why you exist and why what the work you do is important, your mission, there is nothing that will carry your message better in today's age than short form vertical video. So what I'm suggesting is you literally set up an internal media platform with vertical video. Now, this isn't social media. You're not dancing and doing latest trends. It's just borrowing the form and then using personal types of delivery mechanisms to effectively communicate with your people. It really is very simple, but it's very different than producing videos on TikTok or Instagram. A lot of founders have become very interested in producing short form video that's outward facing, that furthers their personal brand with the belief that that's important for the organization. And it may be, I'm not judging that direction, but what I'm saying is the most important people you need to communicate to are the people that are working with you and for you, your internal team. That's where your personal brand needs to be at the top. And there's no better way to do that than to communicate regularly through short form video. I really do think this is a Moneyball move. One of those things that if you look at it a little bit differently than everybody else, you could have exponential results. And it's important to measure the process because using this type of platform it's just like building social media. You don't put out 3 videos and everybody changes. It takes hundreds of videos to build an audience. Well, internally, it takes consistent usage of this method to build up that goodwill and help people come on side with you with your narrative and what you're doing and why you're doing it. Let's talk really quickly through a cadence. This is what I'd suggest. On Monday, I would put a video out that's 90 seconds or less, just about our direction. This is where we're going this week and this is why it matters. On Wednesday, I'd highlight someone else's story. Maybe someone from the company, maybe a customer. It would be super brief, again, less than 90 seconds, not overproduced, more kind of like this, just talking to the camera in a way that's relatable, but it's vertical. Right. And everybody watches it and it's something about your brain. You understand vertical video differently. Then on Friday, I would go into some type of meaning like why this matters. What did we learn this week? And what's something to think about over the weekend. Again, that's very personally driven. That's a simple 3 video structure you could literally put in place this week. Now, why is video so important? It's important because it's personal and it can be consistent and it really communicates the founder's voice. Because if a founder is going to communicate to more than 20 people in a company, they can't go to every desk. But a video can. It could go for you. And again, it can't be like the standard corporate message with the cheesy music and, hi, I'm Derek Sellinger, CEO of, you know what I mean? It needs to be talking to people and relating who you are. A written message gets interpreted. A founder's face gets understood. Your employees should not have to imagine what you meant. They should be able to look into your eyes every week, multiple times a week, and hear it from you directly. I'm telling you, if you do this, your mission is going to translate through your organization. And yes, there's all kinds of nuances to this. This is what my work is really focusing on in the corporate setting, is how to use this effectively, because you have to tell stories differently than social media, but also differently than standard corporate think. It's this middle ground, and that's what I'm going to continue to talk about on this channel. The biggest communication mistake that most founders make is not saying too little, it's allowing everyone else to become the author of the company's story. The company story and your story as a founder is yours. You're writing it. You're the captain of this ship. You're the general of the army. You're the person who is authoring this. And while you want participation, you got to take back the pen and make sure that things get written in a manner that you are directing. You understand the mission. You understand why this is here. It's time to start telling people. So if you can, before your employee count hits 20, install this system and you're going to see dividends happen long term. But even if you are a larger organization, now's the time to think through how to implement this. And again, we're going to keep covering this on this channel. So stay tuned and we'll see you next time.